Who here remembers this assertion about the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust, which had been England's largest care provider for trans youth prior to the Bell v Tavistock ruling?
It was just released with the Tavistock staff. You know, the Tavistock closed down in the UK. That was the big gender surgery performing institute in the UK.
How was that closed down? What happened?
Government closed it down.
So
because they knew that they figured out in the UK that, wow, the rates of transgender transformation requests were skyrocketing. And even the people at the clinic knew that they were rushing people along the transformation pipeline way faster than they should have without proper clinical evaluation. There's 1,000 lawsuits out against the Tavistock in the UK now. Wow. 1,000. Out of, I think, 30,000 transition processes.
Because I sure as hell do. Well, surprise! A new Freedom of Information request has revealed this assertion to have been nothing more than a lie. An invention peddled not only by professional snake oil salesman Jordan Peterson, but the mainstream press in both the US and the UK. A fact that surprises exactly nobody in the trans community, and yet has been used to destroy the lives of countless trans people, starting with children before moving on to the adults, as we'll see today. Just a heads up, I will be talking about a number of heavy topics, including transmisia, child abuse, medical abuse, and psychological torture. If the work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so we can keep the channel running. We cannot survive without your support. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. I'd also like to take this time to remind our viewers that the statements made throughout our videos are the opinions of myself, the host, based on the evidence I have available to me. They are not and should not be taken as unquestionable fact, which is why we reference everything, because we're fallible. Thus we try to give you, the viewer, the ability to check all evidence yourself to make up your own mind, which is what the reference numbers in the top left corner are for, being numbers that match up with the reference list found in the transcript linked down below. As such, we encourage all viewers to do their own research to reach an informed conclusion about the topic. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and it's time to debunk the assertion that 1,000 former patients of Tavistock's gender services are, or ever were, getting ready to sue the clinic for wrongful practice. This is important since it's a claim that has been exploited for the purpose of making trans healthcare look riskier than it is, particularly for trans youth, in order to justify limits and even outright bans, in spite of the fact that we know the cost of such bans to be counted in the lives of children. Though again, whilst Peterson absolutely promoted this myth in 2024 with the help of living shitstain Joe Rogan, they were not alone. We see the same lie promoted in this propaganda piece by the Christian Institute back in 2022.
NHS England's Gender Identity Clinic for Children could be faced with legal action from at least 1,000 families. Law firm Pogust Goodhead is bringing group legal action against the Gender Identity Development Service, which is to be shut down next spring. The clinic will be sued for its unquestioning, affirmative approach towards gender-confused children and for prescribing experimental puberty-blocking drugs.
Those experimental puberty-blocking drugs. Yeah, they were approved for use on cisgender children over 40 years ago, since they're known to be clinically safe. That's why the NHS still uses them on cis children. It's only when those very same medications can save transgender children horrific psychological and physical scarring that they magically become a problem, leading them to be selectively banned for trans youth specifically. So this is just a straight up lie, but why should the Christian Institute care? It's not like that's a sin or anything. Also, it's funny how they try to demonize the gender-affirming approach in relation to children who might be trans, when all gender-affirming means is allowing the child to explore who they are in a safe environment with the help of specialists to figure out their gender. That's what the Christian Institute is taking offense to here. Why? Well, because it doesn't involve quacks trying to force the child to change their gender to adhere to parental demands, a practice which is known to increase attempted suicide among gender-questioning youth from 8% to 57%. Because hey, would the gates to heaven be so white if not built from the skeletons of trans children? As for the claim regarding 1,000 patients getting ready to sue Tavistock, that can be sourced back to Tom Goodhead of the aforementioned Pogus Goodhead, as seen in this interview with the Times Radio.
The Tavistock's gender clinic is facing a class action lawsuit from patients who say they were let down and permanently altered by treatment from the Gender Identity Development Service. Allegations include recklessly prescribing puberty blockers and taking an unquestioning affirmative approach to children who identified as transgender. Law firm Pogus Goodhead is spearheading the mass legal action. Their global managing partner, Tom Goodhead, joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Can you give us an idea of the numbers here? Is it true to say that you're expecting around 1,000 former patients to join this class action?
Yes, I mean, it's hard to put a precise number on it now, but we run over 25 very large class actions from our firm, and we've got decades and decades of experience in the size of these groups that sign up.
Explicitly tethering these cases to the apparent reckless prescription of puberty blockers. Thing is, it has already been almost 4 years since that interview. And yet, not a single case has come to light. This oddity led to investigative journalists Marie Shrewsbury and Dyra Emma Hopwood to file a Freedom of Information request with the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust in December of 2025. The request itself asked 4 questions. Quote, 1. The total number of complaints made about this clinic by parents of trans/non-binary minors. 2. The number of complaints by families that felt gender-affirming care had been provided wrongly or inappropriately. 3. Any synopsis of the nature of those complaints would be appreciated, but can be omitted if unavailable or if it would make the request arduous. 4. Number of complaints pursued via law firm Pogus Goodhead. End quote. What they uncovered was that out of the 142 complaints made to the clinic between 2012 and 2022, a whopping 8 of them related to gender-affirming care. That's less than 1 complaint a year. Yet, perhaps even more telling are some of the details of those complaints. Take this one for example, quote, concerns about being given information on fertility, not being included in discussions about treatment, unhappy that blockers are not being prescribed to child until later date. End quote. So the exact opposite of what fuckhead was saying earlier. And this isn't the only one. Another one of the 8 complaints was recorded as, quote, concerns about support group not being recommended by Gender Identity Development Service, impact of High Court ruling on starting and remaining on hormone blockers, end quote. So fears about blockers being denied or taken away at a later date due to the farce which was the Bell v Tavistock ruling. As for the number of cases Pogus Goodhead were known to be pursuing, 0. And yet fuckheads still had the gall to lecture people about evidence and looking at things on a macro level.
I think one has to stand back and look at this and look at it at a macro level in terms of what have been identified as extraordinary systemic failings in terms of the way that treatment has been delivered and the complete lack of evidence for the affirmation-only model of treatment, which was effectively being followed by the Tavistock. And that, I just find that we've allowed, I think, in effect, what appears to be an ideological capture of a clinic rather than actually following evidence-based healthcare, which provides the foundations for the delivery of all other types of healthcare under the NHS.
The thing is, I agree with a lot of what he says, just not in the way he intended it. Tavistock has fallen victim to ideological capture, just like the rest of the NHS, by the far right. Gender-affirming care, which is the only medical care in existence that has been shown with actual evidence to help trans people, has been demonized by non-experts, including those deliberately put into positions of power by anti-trans ideologues. And that is not a conspiracy. That is a fact boasted about publicly by none other than leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. Literally, she openly confessed that one of the reasons the UK has turned into such a transphobic shithole was, quote, having gender-critical men and women in the UK government holding the positions that mattered most in equalities and health. You only need to look at what the SNP did in Scotland to see what would have happened had we not intervened. The Cass Review would never have been commissioned under a Labour government. Labour did not want to know. We had incredible opposition from the system on everything. It was when the ministers changed that everything changed. End quote. It is part of a coordinated attempt to replace a science-based approach with one based on fascist ideology. Just take the Cass Review Badenoch mentioned. This non-peer-reviewed hack job by a non-expert in any relevant field is held up as some sort of gold standard, when it isn't. Not only is it not scientific, again, never having passed peer review, not only has it been revealed that Hilary Cass was known by her colleagues for pushing anti-trans propaganda before she was handpicked for the job, being the only one considered, as revealed by another Freedom of Information request, but said paper has been internationally discredited in actual peer-reviewed journals. That is what Fuckhead and his peers have replaced actual science with. An opinion piece. Yet there has been a very real cost to said misinformation. Dozens of children are known to have been killed, driven to suicide via the Bell v Tavistock ruling, with the UK government now repeating said atrocity with the aforementioned Cass Review. And the narratives responsible for these murders haven't gone away, as seen in this Atlantic piece which argues that trans people are really just gender non-conforming gay kids who are being coerced into transitioning, when that is the very opposite of what gender-affirming care actually is. So naturally, people are angry and are looking for those responsible. Which brings us back to the myth, the lie that 1,000 former patients were getting ready to sue Tavistock over their gender-affirming care. A lie spread all the way from Fuckhead in 2022 to Peterson years down the line. A lie that has refused to die. Even now, as new evidence comes to light completely eradicating this bullshit, not nearly enough people are reporting on this, on the real Tavistock scandal. It is perhaps unsurprising to learn that Pogus Goodhead did not respond to the Yorkshire byline for comment over their investigation. But they have kept up their page claiming that they're still taking action against Tavistock. Which just leaves me wondering, how is that not fraud? How is this not Pogus Goodhead advertising themselves, bolstering their presence in the public eye, fueled on a paste of blood and meat, made by grinding trans children beneath their greed? It's possible that Goodhead is just keeping everything tight to their chest, but I can't help but wonder how they intend to sue the NHS when nobody reported the issue they're asserting was institutional. Now, I'm a legal layperson. It's probable that there's some bullshit loophole, but I do think Pogus Goodhead needs to be held accountable for the violence they have unleashed upon the trans community if they fail to show actual proof of their claims. Because these lies have gone on to hurt not just trans children, but trans adults. Because yeah, they're now getting ready to finish off trans healthcare for everyone, as they've been chipping away at for a while now. But we can fight back. We need to get organised, distribute information, and engage in community outreach and support. Global fascism has grown at a terrifying speed, that is true. But it is also straining under its own weight. It has targeted too many communities too fast, resulting in new alliances to be formed. And those alliances give us the strength necessary to slay this monster through whatever means necessary. That starts by getting the word out. And if you'd like to help us continue to do just that, please consider becoming one of wonderful patrons who make our work possible. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Flynn, Loombat, Boea, Deborah Goldsmith, Higgins the Seagull, Mick Sauber, and Peter Cole. And with that, take care, and I'll catch you next time.